Hi, my name is Jonathan. Mitt Romney does not care if 47% of Americans are tortured and enslaved. Let me reread this quote from Mitt Romney for you. 47% of Americans will vote for the president no matter what. There are 47% who are dependent on government, who believe they are victims, who believe that government has a responsibility to care for them, believe that they are entitled to health care, to food, to housing, to you name it. That's entitlement. And the government should give it to them. And they will vote for the president no matter what. My job is not to worry about these people. I'll never convince them to take personal responsibility and to care for their lives. But if your employer does not give you a living wage, and none of the businesses or corporations in America give their employers living wages, or at least a minimum wage adjusted to inflation, then where else are you going to turn? And that's what the government is for. Like myself, I am not a big fan of the government either because I am an anarchist. I believe that the working class, the poor in this country, should take the wealth from the top 1% wealthiest Americans, take that wealth for ourselves. We should not have the government as a middleman taxing the rich. Taking responsibility means the poor, the working class in this country, stealing the money from the rich, taking the wealth from the elites in this country. That is taking a personal responsibility instead of having the government being the middleman, taxing the rich. I don't support taxing the rich either. Because as an anarchist, I believe we should take the money from the rich ourselves, stealing the money from the rich directly. That's what I believe as an anarchist. I love this Emma Goldman quote. Emma Goldman is my ultimate hero as an anarchist. Emma Goldman said, "Ask for work. If they don't give you work, ask for bread. If they do not give you work or bread, then take bread." I love that philosophy because that is personal responsibility. The rich, the poor, stealing from the rich ourselves, rising up and taking the money for ourselves from the rich. The United States is not a democracy because there's a huge wealth gap between the rich and the poor. But being a democracy, supposedly we live in a democracy, we should, health care, food, and housing, these are human rights that should be expected within a democracy. But like I said, democracy is a joke in America because there's a huge wealth gap between the rich and the poor. But I love Gore Vidal's comment on democracy when he said that in the United States, democracy is the national nonsense word because we're just a democracy in name only because of the huge economic injustices within this country. So, but regarding human rights, talking about human rights, as I said, in a democracy, healthcare, food, and housing, these are human rights. Back in 1948, the United States was one of many countries who signed the Universal Declaration of Human Rights in the United Nations. And most of the world signed this declaration. So I'm going to read to you first Article 25. Find it. Article 25 from the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Everyone has the right to a standard of living adequate for the health and well-being of himself and of his family, including food, clothing, housing, and medical care and necessary social services, and the right to security in the event of unemployment, sickness, disability, widowhood, old age, and other lack of livelihood in circumstances beyond his control. Motherhood and childhood are entitled to special care and assistance. All children, whether born in or out of wedlock, shall enjoy the same social protection. I can understand where Mitt Romney's coming from. This is an entitlement. This is a human right for all nations of the world, but it's an entitlement. Elsewhere in this Declaration of Human Rights, Articles 18 and 19, this is basic stuff here. Freedom of speech, everyone has the right to freedom of thought, conscience, and religion. And Article 19, freedom of religion. So freedom of speech and freedom of religion. I guess these are entitlements to Mitt Romney. These are the same human rights. These are equal human rights to the right to full employment, the right to health care, universal health care. But freedom of speech, freedom of religion, these are entitlements. So we should not expect these as Americans. Also, Articles 4 and 5 in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Article 4, no one shall be held in slavery or servitude. Slavery and the slave trade shall be prohibited in all their forms. But again, that's an entitlement. The right to be free from slavery, not being bound up by the institution of slavery, that is an entitlement. And also, Article 5, no one shall be subjected to torture or to cruel, inhuman, or degrading treatment or punishment. Same human right as the right to health care, housing, food, clothing, as the right to not be tortured. So that's an entitlement, though, you know. The right not to be tortured, the right not to be a slave in your country, those are entitlements. And I guess Mitt Romney thinks that 47% of Americans, they should not expect to be free from slavery. They should not expect the government to protect them from slavery or the government to protect them from torture. And I really do think that the Universal Declaration of Human Rights is superior to the United States Constitution, because in the United States Constitution there was no stipulation to the freedom from slavery. But there is in here. Like, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights is a more comprehensive declaration of human rights and true democracy than is expressed in the U.S. Constitution. But okay, so if Mitt Romney expects slavery to be an entitlement, and Americans should not expect to be free from the institution of slavery, then it is our responsibility as Americans to rise up and kill our slave masters. Like, if slavery is an entitlement, then personal responsibility, in the case of slavery, means killing your slave master and freeing the other slaves. So, that's all I wanted to say. This Universal Declaration of Human Rights is pretty cool. I don't think Mitt Romney supports it, even though technically the United States, we're supposed to agree to human rights. So if we as a nation are going to say we're a democracy and we're going to stand up for human rights, then we should expect that if corporations and your employers are not going to give you a living wage and you're not going to get universal health care or housing by employment, then government, as a last resort, if we're not going to rise up as an anarchist society, government as a last resort to provide as a human right to you housing, health care, and food. So that is all I wanted to say, is Mitt Romney really does think that 47% of Americans should be tortured and enslaved. Thank you.